mention it in my introduction that I might do a bit of a book report on why this is the book that I'm using for my inspiration on these videos. So I've owned this book now for 14 years. I know exactly when I bought it. It was December 2008. I was on my second year working as a learning support facilitator at a sixth form college, and I had just started my teacher training on the job at the same time. And the job was 2 towns over, so that involved what I call the night commute. It's winter, it's dark, you wake up in the dark, you catch the train in the dark, you come home in the dark, and it's kind of a miserable time of year. And usually all I wanted to do when I got home was chuck on my pyjamas, eat something really quick and collapse on the sofa in front of the TV until I collapsed into bed a few hours later. And so the problem I had was that I was eating rubbish, anything that was really quick to bung in the oven that I could just ignore for 10 or 20 minutes, or worse still, bowls of cereal and just toast because I really didn't have the energy to make anything else that night. Yes, tins of soup occasionally if I was lucky and I felt like I ought to get a few vegetables in, but that was about it. So I started looking around for a way to make my evening meals a lot easier. And in those days, I'd never heard of the term meal prep, but I did come across this cookbook. So I brought it from Amazon and I was really looking forward to it coming, but like a lot of people, I'm a kind of cookbook junkie and I tend to buy cookbooks for the pictures as much as for the recipes because, let's face it, most of the time we don't make a lot of the recipes from cookbooks anyway. So when I got this book originally, I was a little bit disappointed because there are absolutely no pictures, and I really thought, oh no, I've wasted my money, I am never going to use this cookbook. It turns out it's one of the most used cookbooks in my collection, and it's not just for the recipes. The recipes are good and they're useful. For any British people thinking of buying this, they're American in their measurements, but also in some of the ingredients that she uses. You're not going to be able to find those in this country, but you can find replacements for them. So this is the Weeknight Survival Cookbook. How to make healthy meals in 10 minutes. Weeknight meals made unbelievably easy. 12 weeks of recipes, menus and shopping lists, which is just brilliant. I don't really use the shopping list that much because this book is aimed more at sort of family of 4 type meals, but they are quite useful to sort of skim down and get an idea of the things that you might need for that week's meals. And the menus, obviously, I am constantly using, and they inspire me as much as I want to remake them. Over 40 additional recipes for make-ahead meals, which I haven't even touched, to be quite honest. I'm sure they're great, but I haven't even got that far. Quick pasta dishes, tasty desserts, and tips for organising your kitchen. Not much point in me taking any notice of those. My kitchen is as organised as it's ever going to get, but this book by, I think actually her name is pronounced Dena Irwin, despite how I say it in my intro, so apologies for that. So the inside of this book, the book that I was probably never ever going to use, has now got so much writing and mess all over it. I mean, you know, take a look at that. Because what happens is I get inspired by these weeks to then go through my other cookbooks and see if I can sort of tweak the recipes that she suggests into other versions from other cookbooks and create my own week menus. They're not necessarily as quick and easy as some of hers because, you know, not all recipes are going to take 10 minutes to make, but it's a lot of fun to do, and it does mean that I'm using more of the recipes from my other cookbooks because of it. So she has a whole system in here. She calls it the Weeknight System, and there's a whole lot of information about it, and she literally breaks down all of the weeks into these fantastic little menus. So you basically make one big meal on the Sunday, which is like your Sunday roast sort of situation, and then you take elements of that meal through the rest of the week, and it's such a good idea. Some of the other days you are literally using leftovers from the roast, and on other days it's a completely new meal, but it's really quick and easy. So week 1, for instance, on the Sunday for your sort of roast day, you're going to have marinated chicken breast, roast veg and white rice. The Monday is using up bits of the leftover chicken in a salad, a Caesar salad. The Tuesday is using up bits of the leftover vegetables, and she puts them in a roasted vegetable cheese pocket. It's basically a pita bread that she chucks the vegetables in, with a bit of cheese, and she warms it up in the microwave and then does a salad on the side again. Which is just, you think, oh, that's not much. It's genius. I did this whole week when I first got this cookbook, and I actually really enjoyed it. I didn't think I would, but I really enjoyed the fact that I could just come home and I knew what I was going to be having for dinner, because quite often one of the worst things about coming home after a hard day's work is you don't know what you're going to make, and that's the thing that slows you down. What do I actually feel like eating? What can I really be bothered to spend the time on making? This is great because all of that is taken out of your hands because you've already got the ingredients. It's ready, you just need to go on to the next day. And you can muck around with these recipes, obviously. You can change them to things that you know that you would prefer to eat. So if, for instance, in this particular week, her vegetables were peppers, asparagus, zucchini, carrots, quite often I would cheat and just get one of these bags of frozen vegetables. The ones that have like roasted parsnips, red onion, and carrots that have got like a sprinkling of herbs that you can just chuck in the oven and cook up, because I was just cooking for me at this point. And I would use some of that, and they were delicious. They worked really well. So you can basically use any vegetables that you want, and she says that herself in this book. And then if, for instance, you don't like pita breads, you could maybe just warm the vegetables up and put them in a tortilla wrap or something like that. So there's so many ways that you could change this up, and that's why I believe that I can also change most of this book up by giving it a plant-based makeover. I know for a fact, because I've already reworked a number of these recipes, that it's a pretty easy thing to do. You don't necessarily have to copy every single recipe. So in week 2, we have a week that's based on chili. And for this, she has chili with cornbread and broccoli on the Sunday, and then she uses up the chili on a jacket potato on the Monday. And then you have other elements. I think she uses up a bit more of the chili again for a taco salad on another day. And so you can just keep changing things around. And because it was so inspiring, as I say, I started going through my old recipe books and looking for alternatives. So as well as having this sort of marinated chicken day, in another cookbook I found a char-grilled chicken recipe that I thought would be perfect as an alternative, or a chicken and new potato roast with tarragon mayonnaise in another cookbook. So I thought, well, that could be one I could use. On the day when it's a Caesar salad, there's chicken brochettes with salad on another cookbook. Cheese and spinach pancakes instead of the roasted vegetable cheese pockets, or potato and chive pancakes. They're not going to be as quick, but you can kind of meal prep them on the Sunday, or at least partially meal prep them on the Sunday. Instead of the tuna salad niçoise, I've got a tuna and white bean casserole. And I've even, because I'm still using this book, I've even got a reference to a modern recipe, which is Pick Up Lime's recipe of roasted veg salad with crispy chickpeas, which is absolutely delightful. That's in their $1 video, which if you haven't seen is so worth watching, because it's quite possibly the best 1 week's worth of meals video that I have come across for plant-based eating. So yeah, I'm constantly using this book. It is just fantastic. Really easy to follow, particularly if you're not, like me, the best chef in the world or the best cook in the world. These are easy things to do. So even though there are no pictures in this book, shocker, I would highly recommend getting this book if you are, like I was, in a situation where you're coming home every night from work, exhausted, and you really don't feel like eating, and you know you're not doing yourself any favours with your diet. Get this book. It's just fantastic, and it's so easy to follow. There are so many simple recipes that can easily be adapted, tweaked for your tastes, that you're going to love it. You're going to use it far more than you think you will when you first get it. So I'm using this book throughout my videos as inspiration for weeknight meal prep, so that instead of just giving you a whole load of reworked plant-based recipes, I'm actually showing you how you can use those recipes throughout the week. Again, not going to be as quick and as simple and as usefully easy as these fantastic recipes are, but hopefully with a little bit of meal prepping on whatever day you have the time for it, you will then be able to come home every night, no matter how miserable your day has been, or fantastic, no matter how miserable the weather might be, how dark it is, you still know what you're going to have for tea, and you know it's going to be ready in no time at all. 10 minutes if you use this book, maybe slightly longer if you use my recipes, but hopefully not a lot longer. Most of the time it's just going to be warming things up, throwing things on the hob, throwing things in the oven, fingers crossed, but things that are really simple to prepare, so that you know what you're going to have, you can enjoy it, you can look forward to it when you're coming home. You know that dinner is already ready because you already know what it is. What more can you ask for?